and innocents wherever they may be found in Gaza. Are there names to be added to our Shabbat prayers for healing? A refuah shlema to each one. Our prayers for healing are on page 137.
V'sheberach avoteinu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov. V'sheberach imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with a vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Mishaberach avoteinu Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov. Mishaberach imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well.
With the opening ceremony for the 2024 Olympics taking place in Paris literally as we speak, perhaps some of you saw a particular advertisement in the lead-up. It's in French, depicting a French Jewish family sitting around the television as the multiple generations gathered around become aghast as they hear the news of 3 young Jewish men wearing kippot being surrounded and attacked. One of the family members comes in, asks if everything is okay, to which one of the gentlemen responds in French, same as ever. One of the women then declares that she's fed up and wants to remove the obviously Jewish surname Cohen from all her important transactions, from rideshare apps to the letterbox and so on. Afterwards, we see other flashes of unfolding scenes. One family removes their mezuzah from their doorpost. A young girl says to her friend that she can't be wearing her Magen David in public. Customers remove their produce from bags at the kosher grocery store with Hebrew writing on them. Graffiti is sprayed on a wall that says, "Jews live here." A family closes the curtains whilst they say Kiddush on Friday night. The closing frame says, this time in English, "When men and women hide their identity, France forfeits its fraternity. With fraternité, brotherhood, being one of the three core French pillars of liberty, equality, and fraternity. In other words, the advertisement aims to convey that anti-Semitism and other forms of exclusion, by extension, is against French values. The ad has since gone viral, at least in the Jewish world, in a week in which it seems that there is so much, too much, that has put the Jews in the news, tangentially or explicitly. Subsequently, I wanted to take a look at what this ad, as well as some other examples from Torah and pop culture, might teach us about this Jewish experience and our relationship to broader society. We can start with the good news, which is that sometimes we're in. From bagels and lox to babka ice cream to shows like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel to the movie Golda to Hanukkah celebrations on Parliament Hill to Shana Tova cards in the pharmacy of our Jewish heavy neighborhoods to the Rugrats celebrating a Seder, there are countless ways in which we as Jews see ourselves in the pop public sphere. This might be a result of the philosophical outlook by Jews who have often sought to feel integrated or assimilated, a part and parcel of their broader culture. We can find an example of this in our Siddur, where we learn that since at least the 1st century CE, Jews have included prayers for the welfare of the countries in which they have resided. This is evidenced from the ancient philosophers Philo and Josephus, who both record blessings for the Roman Empire under which they lived, and which is captured in and the sentiment of which is captured in Pirkei Avot, where Rabbi Hanina teaches, "Pray for the welfare of the government, for were it not for the fear it inspires, every inhabitant would swallow their neighbor alive." Strong words. Today, we have our own, much less harsh blessing for our country of Canada, also in Siddur Pirkei Kodesh. Might sound familiar to you, so just as a bit of a refresh. We pray for all who serve in positions of leadership and responsibility in our national life. Protect them as they aid and defend your creation. Inspire them to be responsive to your will so that Canada may be to the world an example of justice and compassion. Deepen our love for our country and our desire to serve it. Cause us to see clearly that the well-being of our nation is in the hands of all its citizens. Keep our homes safe from affliction, strife, and war. In essence, it's always been important to Jews to acknowledge and be acknowledged in the broader societal context and to be contributing members of whichever communities they have been part of. This is based on a long tradition in the belief that this belonging leads to a greater sense of peace, security, and goodwill between neighbours. On the other hand, it goes without saying that sometimes we're out. A number of you, again, in the lead up to the Olympics, might have seen another ad, this time from the sportswear brand Nike, featuring American Palestinian model Bella Hadid. On the surface, we can ask, what's the problem? She's just a model wearing some shoes, right? Well, digging deeper, we discover that the shoes in question are a relaunch of a pair worn by runners at the 1972 Munich Olympics, at which 11 athletes were murdered by Islamic extremists. Furthermore, we discover that Hadid has been spreading anti-Semitic and anti-Israel vitriol online, not just since October 7, but for many years prior. So at this point, we might need to question the motive, and we might need to question the rhetoric under the rhetoric. It's strange in a way, and in some senses echoes exactly the phenomenon expressed by our parasha's antagonist and namesake, Pinchas. So consumed is he about who is in and who is out of the group or the tribe that he goes to the extreme of killing his fellow Israelite, Zimri, upon discovering his relationship with a non-Israelite, Midianite woman named Cosby. Through Pinchas' zealotry, we come to learn the dark side of exclusion and ignorance. Moreover, though he is an Israelite, one of our own, we arguably see Pinchas as an example of relinquishing part of his humanity in his killing of Cosby and Zimri, and what it looks like when hurt and hatred, and indeed ignorance, are taken too far. Sometimes with both positive and negative experiences being balanced in our history, when it comes to something like pop culture, we often exist in the in-between, a space that we Jews are good at inhabiting. By way of example, I'm no expert in comic books, but another piece of Jewish news making the headlines in the last week or so regards Marvel's new Captain America movie, slated to feature an Israeli Jewish female superhero, quite appropriately called Sabra. You might recognize this word Sabra, which literally translated means cactus. It refers to this native Israeli plant and Israeli natives themselves, who are said to be prickly on the outside but soft and sweet within. Sabra is even being portrayed by an Israeli Jewish young woman, Shira Haas, who starred in the TV shows Shtisel and Unorthodox. The headline is that, ostensibly to avoid controversy, her origins were going to be changed to being Russian instead. The well-known Jewish Israeli social media influencer Hen Mazig laments this decision, commenting that this switch is a travesty that strips us of the pride and affinity associated with this representation, even more so in a world in which Israel is waging a war against terrorism and in which Jews are not facing levels of hate not experienced for almost 80 years. This also, he notes, from a company founded by Jews and whose work features heroes from many diverse backgrounds, including, as Mazig reminds us, again, I'm no expert in this, a Chinese Taoist, a Muslim Pakistani, and Black Africans. That being said, following the outcry, it's now been reported that in the last days, including in the Jerusalem Post, that Sabra is indeed going to retain her Israeli Jewish identity, Hebrew name, Ruth Bat Seraph, accent, and all. So at this moment, we can recall, or at least I'm reminded of a vignette from Parashat Pinchas, where Moses is told that he will be able to ascend the mountain which overlooks Israel, but that he will die before he can enter the promised land. That liminal space must have felt deeply strange and deeply lonely. After 40 years, Moses will stand on the outside, seeing only from afar the land that he has led his people towards, whilst living out the remainder of his days in the full knowledge, the awareness that he will never again be on the inside, being prevented by God from participating in the life of the Israelites as they write the next chapter of their story and the next iteration of their culture. For me, that is where this in-between lies. Our record shows that we as Jews are often akin to Moses on the mountaintop, simultaneously part of an in-group, a significant part even, whilst still watching and waiting wistfully from beyond as others sometimes take control of this narrative. Which leads us to this middle ground, which leads us to this other alternative solution, which is simply that sometimes we do our own thing. I'll admit, as a bit of an internet junkie, the kernel from this Drash came from a post I saw on a well-known Jewish meme page run by a young Australian woman, Shoshana Gottlieb, called Jewish Memes Only. So after Shabbat, you can go look it up, or maybe your children or grandchildren know it. She provides her own take on Parashat Pinchas and this past week's political news or turmoil, which reads as follows. The headline, all in capitals: How politics will affect your shul this week. Is your rabbi conservative? You get a Trump is somehow Pinchas drasha. Is your rabbi liberal? You get a Kamala/Joe equals Yehoshua/Moshe drasha. Is your rabbi a woman? Zelophehad's daughter drasha no matter what. So naturally, as a liberal rabbi and a female, we have to talk about Benot Zelophehad, as we can turn to them for an example of carving out your own niche